Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram
Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminithi Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verse number 4. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yad vikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu. The meaning is, now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, wherefrom it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. So this chapter begins the analysis of the matter, spirit, and this Supreme Lord or the Super Soul, who is the controller of both. Here the Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional positions. One has to understand how this body is constituted. The materials of which this body is made, then under whose control this body is working. Generally, what do we think? That this body is under my control, my body is under my control, your body is under your control. But not exactly. There is some control given to us, but it is not absolute control. It is not control which always exists. So, understanding the controller of this body is very important. How the changes are taking place within this body. Where from the changes are coming. What the causes are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of the individual is, and what the actual form of the individual soul is. This form that we are familiar with, the form of this body is changing. So what is the actual form? And we also know we are not this body from the second chapter of the Gita. So if I am not the body, I am spirit soul. What is the actual form of the spirit soul? So all this one has to understand. First of all, the distinction between the individual soul and the super soul. This is very, very important. The impersonalists think in terms of the individual soul being same as the super soul, or the super soul being same as the individual soul. That is not correct. That has already been explained in the previous verse. I am the knower of my body, you are the knower of your body, but Krishna as super soul is knower of all the bodies, each and every body. So super soul is the super knower. I am the individual knower of my body alone. So the individual soul is distinctly different from the super soul, or the super soul is distinctly different from the individual soul. Both of them, the individual soul and the super soul, are seated within this body. This is explained in the Upanishads also. In the tree of this body, there are two birds sitting. This is an analogy. Just like on a tree you may find birds, like that, it is explained, if this body can be compared to a tree, then the soul and individual soul and the super soul are compared to two birds. And distinctly they are explained in the Upanishads as two entities. So all this will be explained by the Supreme Lord in this chapter, and one should clearly understand before even proceeding with any further explanations or descriptions that the individual soul and the super soul are always two, eternally two, never one, never can become one, can never be equal. This is a fundamental understanding. Bhagavad Gita chapter 13 verse number 5. Rishibhir bahuda gitam chandobhir vividhai prathak brahma sutra padaishchaiva hetu madbhir vinishchitaihi. The meaning is that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings, especially in the Vedanta Sutra, and is presented with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Now, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the highest authority in explaining all this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, just like learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities, similarly, Krishna is also giving evidence from Vedanta Sutra, evidence from the writings of other great sages who are standard authorities in explaining the subject. And Krishna is explaining a very, very, very controversial point regarding whether the soul and super soul are two or they are one. And he is referring to especially the Vedanta Sutra. He says according to different sages this can be understood. Now, as far as the sages are, the distinction between different people in this world is not just with respect to body alone. It is with respect to the transcendental living being inside the body. So, even though we are presently under the influence of the three gunas according to our karma, still the living entity as spirit soul is individual. This is very clearly explained in the second chapter in the 12th verse. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaivana bhavishyamaha sarve vayam matah param. So this very important verse in the second chapter, so in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. You cannot understand Bhagavad Gita unless you accept this duality of the soul and super soul. You can never understand Bhagavad Gita. So here, even in the original Vedas, the distinction between the soul, the super soul, and the body is made, especially in the Kathopanishad. So, distinctly three different identities: matter, spirit, and the super soul. Then Srila Prabhupada explains from the Taittiriya Upanishad that the Supreme Lord's energy is manifest as 5 different entities: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. The Supreme Lord is Anandamaya. He is full of bliss always. That is his position. But the other 4, out of the other 4, the first 3, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Jnanamaya, are described here as the field of activities of the living beings. And the Vijnanamaya is referring to the living entity, and Anandamaya is referring to the Supreme Lord. So clearly the distinction is made between, again, the field of activity, the living being, and the Supreme Lord. Distinctly the differentiation is made. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 6 and 7 are given together. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhir avyaktamevacha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghatas chetana dhritihi etat kshetram samasena savikaram udahrutam. The meaning of these 2 verses together given in this book: the 5 great elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, the false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. Now, Lord Krishna is explaining what is the field of activity constituted of. What is it made of? So he says the field of activity consists first of all of 24 elements. So what are these 24 elements? You would have heard the 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air and sky. Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham. This is already described in the 7th chapter. But here, from the point of view of what is this field made of? So, the 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air, sky. Then, the intelligence, the mind, the intelligence and false ego. The 3 subtle elements: Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara. That makes it 8. Then there are the 10 senses. Which are the 10 senses? The 5 knowledge acquiring senses: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and this sense of touch. 5 knowledge acquiring senses. Then there are the 5 senses of action: the hands, the legs, the voice, the genitals, and the anus. So there are 5 plus 5, totally 10 senses. And then there are the 5 sense objects. What are the 5 sense objects? For the eyes, there is form. For the ears, there is sound. For the nose, there is smell. For the tongue, there is taste. And for the sense of touch, there is the sense object having a particular feeling of touch sensation. So these 5 sense objects, so 8 elements plus 10 senses, 18 plus 5 sense objects, 23. And finally, the 24th element is called the unmanifested. The unmanifested is the stock of the energy from which everything gets differentiated at the beginning of creation. And then there are interactions of this field. The elements are there, and the interaction produces what is called as desire and hatred, ichcha dvesha. Just like I, the living being, am trying to enjoy in this body or in this field, I desire something, I like something, and I don't like something else, or I hate something else. Just like everybody has got their likes and dislikes as regards eating different food stuff. We have experience of that. Or even regarding fragrances, different people have different preferences. So this interaction of the living being with the elements creates likes and dislikes. That's called ichcha dvesha. Then there is sukham dukkham, happiness and distress. This is also an interaction. Why? Because according to my plan of enjoyment, certain type of sense contact I consider as pleasurable, and certain other type of sense contact I consider as painful. So each person has got his or her own idea of pleasure and pain, likes and dislikes. So these are all due to interaction. Ichcha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham, sanghata, chetana, dhruti. Conviction. Everybody has got their own conviction. People say, I think this is what is the truth, or I believe this is the reality, or I think something else is false. So this conviction, it is belonging to the field, and this conviction can change. Conviction can change. So it belongs to the field. It is also one of the interactions, this conviction, dhriti. Then chetana, living symptoms. Life symptoms or living symptoms are distinctly present in every body in which the spirit soul is there. And they are distinctly different due to different living beings interacting differently. Just like there are some living beings who are in the shape of a mountain, and this mountain or stone you think is simply some lump of matter, that's all. You will never think it's a living being inside there. But actually there could be a living being inside that stone, living being inside the stone. So much so that the Supreme Lord himself has manifested as the form of Saligram Shila. Supreme Lord has incarnated as Saligram Shila in the form of a stone, a special stone called Saligram Shila. So we cannot always make out the life symptoms simply by observing externally. So there are life symptoms, different life symptoms of different living entities in different bodies, and this is also due to interaction of the living being with the material nature, like this. So all this constitute the 24 elements and their interactions. That is what the constitution of this field of activity is. I'll take some questions now. What is the difference between standing before the deities of Lord Sri Krishna with two folded hands and raising the two arms above the head? Standing with folded hands is praying to the Lord, namaskara. Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Of course, their namaskuru means not only folding the hands in mood of prayer to the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, but also bowing down with folded hands, bowing down before the Lord, touching the head to the ground. That is exactly namaskara. But raising the two arms is actually indicating surrender to the Supreme Lord. I surrender to you. That is the indication of raising the arms, surrender to you. Especially in ISKCON temples, you can see Chaitanya Nityananda deities generally have their arms raised. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed Sankirtan generally with arms raised, indicating surrender to Krishna. I surrender to you. So we should surrender to the Supreme Lord. That's what Bhagavad Gita is teaching. That's what all the scriptures are teaching. So that surrender is indicated by raising the arm. Next question. Why do we offer our obeisances to the right hand side? It's just a convention. This convention is followed simply to do things in a proper way. That's all. So it's not any kind of spiritual significance. We have to bow down and we have to offer our respectful obeisances. But by doing in a particular way, we are following a certain standard. Just like scriptures, everything is given as a standard. So we just follow the standard, that's all. We don't create or concoct our own ways. That is also the direction in the scriptures. Don't concoct or create your own thing. You follow the Shastra. Shastra is the standard given by the Supreme Lord. Next question. Krishna said everyone on both sides will be slain. But Ashwathama, Sage Kripa, Kritavarma, Vrishaketu survived. Why is it so? Now, when Krishna says everyone on both sides will be slain, it means Kauravas and their armies, because Krishna came to reduce the burden of this earth, of the unnecessary defense forces. So these demons who had accumulated so many defense forces, so to reduce that burden, Krishna has come. So he killed so many demons and their armies also. Jarasandha, so many armies he killed. But still, some were remaining and they were all assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So through the Pandavas, Krishna arranged for annihilation or destruction of these unnecessary defense forces. So when everyone on both sides means that unnecessary defense forces, we should understand it is the unnecessary defense forces. Some did survive, yes, it's not that 100% everybody was killed. The Pandavas survived and some of the others also survived. In any case, we should remember, even those who were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because of the presence of Krishna, they were all delivered. They were all delivered. After all, the Bhagavad Gita explains at the end of life, we should think of Krishna so that we will become delivered. Now, those who were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna arranged that they were delivered because Krishna was present in front of them. So Krishna was present on the battlefield to deliver all those who were killed in the battle. That is Krishna's mercy, Krishna's kindness. Anybody who is killed by Krishna is delivered. Anybody who dies in the presence of Krishna is delivered. Anybody who is killed by Krishna's pure devotees, the Pandavas, are delivered. This is Krishna's mercy. Don't think only those who are killed by Krishna are delivered. Even those who are killed by Arjuna, those who are killed by Yudhishthira, those who are killed by Bhima, those who are killed by Nakula, Sahadeva, all the 5 Pandavas are pure devotees of Krishna. So anybody, and there were so many who were killed by the Pandavas. all of them were delivered. All of them were delivered. So, this is Krishna's mercy, Krishna's blessing, Krishna's benediction. So, those who don't think only those who survived were fortunate. Those who died also were very, very fortunate. If they had died a natural or normal death apart from being killed in the battlefield, then they wouldn't have achieved deliverance from this material world. They wouldn't have achieved liberation. No. So it is Krishna's mercy. It is explained in the Bhagavatam. It's Krishna's mercy that he was present to deliver everyone. Next question. Is Sanjaya a pure devotee of the Lord since he gets to hear, transmit Lord's teachings and also see the Lord's universal form? Sanjaya is a student of Vyasadeva, and by the mercy of Vyasadeva, he has got special powers to be able to hear something which is going on some big distance away, or even see what is going on far off, or even read somebody's mind like he did when he was narrating to Dhritarashtra what is going on in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What is the mind of Duryodhana, he could read and tell Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya is a pure devotee, yes. And also by the mercy of his guru, he has got special powers because of which he is able to hear, he is able to see what is going on, he is able to see the Lord's universal form and describe that, yes. Why does Srila Prabhupada dedicate Bhagavad Gita to Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan? That is because Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan has presented the Govinda Bhashya, which is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Before Baldev Vidyabhushan wrote the Govinda Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, nobody has written a separate commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Why? Because the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they accept the Srimad-Bhagavatam as the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra written by the author of the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva himself. So out of respect for Vyasadeva, the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not write any commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches Bhagavatam is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, written by Vyasadeva himself. Both are written by Vyasadeva. Now, this is not just what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, it is explained in the Bhagavatam itself. That Bhashyoyam Brahma Sutranam. Garuda Purana also declares Bhagavatam as the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. In the ending of every chapter of the Bhagavatam, it is said Brahma Sutra Bhashya. So, like that, the Acharyas before Baldev Vidyabhushan, they did not write any commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, though they wrote a lot of books explaining the Vedanta philosophy according to the devotional understanding. But during the time of Baldev Vidyabhushan, there was a challenge that you Gaudiya Vaishnava followers, you don't have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So what is the basis of your philosophy without Vedanta Sutra commentary? So then he accepted the challenge and wrote a commentary, Acharya Baldev Vidyabhushan. So Prabhupada is dedicating the Bhagavad Gita to Baldev Vidyabhushan because he wrote a commentary, and that commentary clearly explains the same thing which is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. What Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita is same as what is presented in the Vedanta Sutra, and that's explained by Vyasadeva in the Vedanta Sutra, and that explanation is elaborated by Baldev Vidyabhushan in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So that way all are presenting the same understanding which Krishna is giving, which Vyasadeva is giving, which all our Acharyas are giving. It's the same explanation. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hari Krishna.